Hello everyone, welcome back. This is going to be a tutorial on the Flight Factor A320 Ultimate, an amazing aircraft done by Flight Factor. I thoroughly enjoy it, but I will tell you, if you're coming from a Boeing, it's a whole different animal. So just be cautious about that whenever you purchase it, if you decide to purchase it. We're going to be covering cold and dark startup, MCDU, which is also known as the FMC, setup. We're using Autopilot once we take off, all the way to landing. And we'll do a manual landing though. And I'm going to cover everything, all of it. I'm going to cover all of it basically. Now, I'm using a checklist which I created. Now, I know that seems a little weird, but I did a lot of research, went through several different checklists, including the one that's built into the aircraft, which I think is a little weird in its flow. And I basically created a step-by-step checklist that will allow you to do what I'm going to show you today. I hope it will be helpful for you. The link for it will be in the description below this video. Please check it out. If you are having any issues, it will definitely help you out if you follow along. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump inside the aircraft. From here, we're going to start off with a simple check of the cockpit to make sure everything is functioning. We're going to get some electrical power in and everything like that. Now, when we get to the MCDU, I'm going to show you my flight plan, which has already been created in SimBrief. If you don't know what SimBrief is, it's a great tool for any sim pilot to use. It basically creates your flight brief, which has all the needed information you need to plan your routes, to set up your aircraft, all the fuel calculations, everything like that. It's very useful. Highly suggest it. Anyway, so I'm going to be using that as well as my checklist to program all these things. Now you have to understand that mine might be slightly different than what yours is, and that's because of the nav data. Nav data is something you have to subscribe to if you want to stay up to date. I'm using the April 2018 version of nav data, and that's through Navigraph is what I'm using. And if you don't have that specific nav data, then your waypoints, your approaches, arrivals, all of that may be different. And in some cases, it may really throw you off, and you may be a little confused on how everything's supposed to work together. However, I will do my best to explain everything as clearly as possible to help avoid that confusion. Let's go ahead and get started here, and we'll start with the beginning of my checklist. We'll start from the cockpit, and we're going to look at the parking brake. We're going to make sure it's set, which is set to on. And we're going to make sure we're going to go to our batteries now. Batteries in the upper panel, this overhead panel right here, and it's set in different sections. Your nav, your aiders, which I'll get into that later. You have your fire system, your hydraulic and fuel systems, electrical systems, air conditioning systems, your lights, your anti-ice, some more interior lights and stuff like that, cabin pressurization, your wipers, you have your cargo, fire alarms and smoke alarms, ventilations, your engines, manual starts, all kind of stuff, flight controls, all everything like that. Not everything in this aircraft is selectable, but a lot is. But I'm only going to be showing you the stuff you need in order to complete a flight. So first off, we're going to start by turning on our two batteries. They're right here located in the center, BAT 1 and BAT 2. Initiate BAT 1 by just clicking this button. Initiate BAT 2 by clicking the button as well. You'll see some lights blinking, and you'll see the voltage meters dropped from 281 to 276. That's completely normal. As long as your voltage is above 25, you're good to go. Now, I see some fault buttons popping up, and that's okay. That's just part of the process in the beginning. Now that we've got the batteries on, we're going to go ahead and go to the tablet, basically, that it gives you. We're going to go ahead and turn on the ground power unit. That's going to set up a little unit on the outside, as you can see represented right here, basically giving you the ability to have external power on the ground, which we are now going to go ahead up here and turn on. See, a bunch of lights came on. You'll hear the air conditioning. There it is, coming up. And you'll see a bunch of stuff that says off. You'll still see some faults everywhere, but you will see the lights light up and everything like that, and that's what you want. Next, we're going to go ahead and activate our aiders. Now, aiders is basically, it's your direction finder. Okay, it marks your location on the Earth, if that makes any sense. And you're going to select those basically from off to nav. And you'll see it says align, 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 and that is perfectly fine. It's aligning the aircraft. Now that we've selected those to navigation mode, we're going to go down to the MCDU. The MCDU is found down here right next to the throttle. This is the MCDU, also known as the FMC in the Boeing. Now, in the Airbus A320 by Flight Factor, you can actually select the displays and they will pop up. Very useful if you're in virtual cockpit mode and you're trying to figure out, what am I pressing? I can't really read that. Maybe you had bad vision, maybe you need glasses, what have you, you don't have them with you. This allows you to select it. You can make it larger, smaller, everything like that, anything you need. You can click it and make it go away. We'll keep it up just for ease of vision to be able to see everything I'm doing here. So you're going to start off with the Pilot MCDU in the init page. This is your initial page. This is where you're going to start with all of your plans. We are right now in Tampa, and the there goes my brain, I can't remember what you call it. Basically, it's ID. The airport ID is going to be Kilo Tango Papa Alpha, and then you're going to do a slash. It's important to do the slash because you're doing the from to, and when you're doing the from to, you actually have to put it in like it's asking. If you just put KTPA and click this button, it would give you an error saying improper format. I can actually show you that right now. Format error. Okay, so it's slash, and then where we're going. We're going to head to Miami today. So KTPA/KMIA. We're going to put that in the from and to. Now it's going to give you this page. This is if you've already done the routes using this aircraft, you saved them, what have you, from KTPA to KMIA. You can actually just go ahead and select them here, and it would bring up your entire flight plan. But as you can see, there's none that have been saved, so I cannot select any there. So I'll go ahead and return. You'll see it looks a little different, and that is completely fine. We're not doing a company route, as you can see, and that's why it's blacked out. We're just doing a basically from scratch, and that's important to understand how to do. Now, alternate company slash company route. So this is your alternate airport or alternate company route that is available. Now, according to my my briefing, and I'll show you here my briefing, you'll see my alternate is Kilo Mike Charlie Oscar, which is the airport in Orlando, Florida. And that's important if, for example, let's say something happens at Miami and they have to close all the runways. Let's say there's a bomb threat or something, they have to close down the airport, something along those natures, along those lines, that you have to go to an alternate airport. And the alternate airport they have selected in the briefing is in Orlando. That's important to note and important to use. So go back to our main display here, and we're going to go ahead and enter that now. So we're going to go Kilo Mike Charlie Oscar in the alternate. Flight number. So this is basically, you can make up whatever you want. If you're flying for a virtual airline, you can put it in there. Your actual flight number, if you're doing a basically mimicking a real life flight, you can put it in there, whatever you would like. Today, I'm just going to use my initials and 1001. That's going to be my flight number. Next, we're going to move on down to cost index. Cost index is different for every aircraft and different for every airline, and you can just literally Google cost index of American Airlines and you can find the actual cost index they use. I'm using American Airlines just because it was easy to find, and I figured that would be just fine. They run Airbus's A320s, so I was able to find the Airbus A320 cost index. For American Airlines, if you're flying under 4 hours, you're going to use the cost index of 27. If you're flying over 4 hours, you're going to use the cost index of 21. All the cost index is basically calculating how fast you're going to go versus how much fuel you're going to use versus the cost. So it's all about trying to save as much money as possible, trying to be most fuel efficient as possible, but still arriving within a reasonable amount of time. It's a calculation that is done by a lot of airlines out there to figure out exactly what they want done. So cost index will be 27 for this flight, since we're flying the Airbus A320 and are flying under 4 hours. Cruise flight, this is your flight level, this is your cruise flight level, and temperature. You don't have to put in the temperature for this. This is one of those little exceptions here. You can just put in your flight level, and the temperature will automatically be put in to the temperature right here. So I know my flight level is going to be 270. So if I just put in 270, which if you do not know, that's 27,000 feet. And it's automatically going to calculate your temperature is going to be about negative 38 degrees. So that's important to note, especially for anti-ice. You're going to make sure you have to use those. Now that we entered the cruise temp, we're going to go ahead and align the IRS. This is an important step. Do not forget this step. You have to hit align IRS. It's going to take a little moment for it to align the IRS, so we're going to keep moving on as it does that. We're going to go ahead and go to the winds. You're going to see it's blank here. You can manually enter the winds if you so desire. However, I suggest you just do a wind request. It fills up all the stuff you need. Right now I'm on calm, so there's literally no winds at any of these altitudes, which is just fine for me. And we'll go ahead and return. We're going to go to what they call the init page B, the second init page. And you do that by hitting the right arrow. And this is an important step as well. Now you can manually calculate your center of gravity, which is exactly what this is, and your weight and your center of gravity. You can manually calculate this. However, I always recommend that if it gives you an option, let it automatically calculate it for you, as some of these calculations can get kind of intense and a little confusing. But if you like getting into the nitty-gritty and everything like that, you can absolutely do that and input it here. We're just going to do a weight request, and it's going to automatically give us all the information we need. Our center of gravity, our block fuel. It's going to give us trip time, everything that we need to know. Sit here. Now you're going to notice it just showed up GPS primary. What that just told me is the IRS is finally aligned on the primary GPS unit. That is just what you want. You want that to happen. If it goes secondary, then you might have an issue with your primary GPS, but it's on GPS primary. Good to go. Going to clear that. And use that. The clear button clears the message, by the way, if that pops up. All right. Now that we have completed that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the flight plan portion. Sorry, I just yawned. You're going to select flight plan. Now you're going to notice this looks a little bit different than your Boeing FMC, and it's totally different, okay? It's the way you put in your points and how you manipulate. It's totally different than your Boeing FMC. At first, I was lost in the sauce, okay? I'll be honest, and you're probably in the same boat as me when you're looking at this, and you're like, what in the world is this? Unless you've already had previous experience with Airbuses, then you may already understand. I did a lot of research, guys, and just goes in general for this entire tutorial. I did hours and hours and hours of research, watching hours and hours of videos from a bunch of different people to put all this together. And I hope, first of all, I hope it's useful for somebody out there. But this is kind of what I've come to, and I'll show you kind of what I know, but I'm no expert, okay, guys? I am no expert on this, just so you know. But I will show you how you can actually do this. So we're going to start off with our departure airport. We're going to select that using the L1 button. This is left, this is right, by the way, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just like on your Boeing. We're going to select L1, which is going to bring up your departure airport. There is the easiest way to do all this is to actually do the way I'm doing it now. But I'm not just going to do it the way I'm doing it now. I'm also going to show you how you can manually enter everything. But for the sake of time and ease of use, I'm going to show you this first. So we're going to select departure. Then you're going to select the actual runway you're going to be departing on. To see all the runways, use the up and down keys. As you see, it says not allowed, which means I've hit the end of the list. And the same going up. So there's not a lot of runways here at Tampa that you can use. We're going to be using 01 left. And we're going to be using the SID, which is Standard Instrument Departure. And we're going to be selecting the Gandhi 7. Okay, now it gives you a ability to do a transition to SAB. That is actually where we're going to be transitioning to. And we'll go ahead and select trans. Now, all you're going to do from here, so you've selected the SID, you've selected the transition, you selected your runway, and you can see runway 01 left, SID GAN D7, transition, Sierra Alpha Bravo Echo Echo. You're going to select temp F plans. You're going to put it into the temporary flight plan. So this is your temporary flight plan. You can see basically what is put into the system temporarily. Now, best thing to do is go ahead and go through and remove anything that's a little strange. So like you see manual. I'm going to remove the manual. You could technically fly manual if you wanted to until it got to where you wanted, then you can activate, so on and so forth. I'm going to remove the manual, no real reason for it to be there. Select clear, and then L3, that's going to remove the manual. I'm going to remove the flight plan discontinuity, hitting clear again, selecting L3 again. You'll notice it went ahead and populated all of this information. Now, you wouldn't want to remove manual if you're flying like VATSIM or something like that, because the air traffic control is going to give you a direction, vectors, all that kind of stuff. So only remove that if you're flying like single player and you're just on your own. There's no reason to have it, really. So keep that in mind. If you're flying on VATSIM or something, they're probably going to actually manually direct you out of the airport or have you fly a certain way, and then you can go ahead and attach to your whichever route that you would like to do once they cancel that flight following there. All right. Now that all this is done, we're going to insert it from your temporary into your permanent. So now we're in our permanent flight plan, and we've entered that temporary into our permanent. Now, since we've selected our departure, what we're going to do next is we're going to insert any waypoints in between our transition, which we already put in, as you can see, the SAB, and onward. Now, I know with this particular route, we actually wouldn't even have to manually input a transition here. A waypoint, because if I went to the departure airport and selected the star, and then it would give me a transition of the waypoint that I need to actually hit. However, because I don't want to just do that and then leave you guys hanging, I want to show you how you can manually input waypoints. Sorry about that. I was coughing. So when you manually put in waypoints, all you're going to do is type in the waypoint. For me, it's going to be Charlie Yankee Yankee. And you're going to select, for example, if there's a flight plan discontinuity, which is a perfect place to put any waypoint, you're just going to select that point. You're going to see it automatically put you into a temporary workspace, and you'll notice that it went ahead and did some calculations and got everything set up where it needs to be. And there's still a flight plan discontinuity, but that is completely fine. Now we're going to go ahead and insert that back from our temporary into our permanent flight plan here. And we're going to go ahead and go to our destination. Our destination is right here, Kilo Mike India Alpha, which is Miami. We're going to select it, and we're going to hit R1, which is your arrival. And we're going to select the right runway. For me, that runway is going to be 08 right. I am going to be doing an RNAV approach into 08 right. You could choose ILS, you could choose RNAV, whichever you prefer, into that, approach. And it depends on what your aircraft has. Is it capable of doing an RNAV? Is it capable of doing ILS? The A320 can do RNAV or ILS. So whichever you choose is just fine. I said I was going to do RNAV, but just to show you, because there is something a little different about RNAV and ILS, it's important. So I'm actually going to choose ILS just to show you the difference, because there is a slight difference, okay? So I'm going to choose ILS 08 right. Now you're going to see stars, and you're going to find the star that was given to you by your flight plan. You can go up and down to find it, as you can see, right? Mine is right here, Charlie Yankee Yankee Niner. Select that, and you'll see it gives you transitions. Now I could transition through one of these points. I don't need to because I'm already going to be using Charlie Yankee Yankee, and we'll go ahead and insert that into a temporary flight plan, insert that into permanent, and you'll see it all here. Now we're going to go ahead and go up, make sure that we don't have any discontinuities in our flight plan. Everything looks peachy keen here. What I'm also doing is checking flight levels and making sure it's no crazy descents. Like you don't want to drop 10,000 feet in 2 nautical miles. It's just not possible. So you're just making sure that there's no vectors, no manuals, no discontinuities, nothing like that. Everything looks good there. Now, unlike the Boeing, to do your basically step through your plan, there is no step button. However, if you go up here to, let me do this, and select plan, you'll notice it popped up here. And you're just going to go hit the up button, and it's going to go down. I know up, it's down. I don't know. You think about it like you're pushing it up. You're pushing the paper up. Okay, think of it that way. And you're going to step through the plan. You're going to make sure nothing's too ridiculously crazy. All right, so you see how it took me direct to the, I think that's DHP. Yeah, DHP right here. And then out to Chrome, then out to descent, then out somewhere crazy, back here, and then in. Absolutely insane. Like, whoever decided that would be a good idea, I don't know. But that's why you always check all of your information here, because it really doesn't make any sense for any of that to be the case. So what we're going to do here, clear DHP. That's going to delete that waypoint. Then we're going to go ahead and do a clear flight plan discontinuity. You're going to see it looks a little crazy still. Thinking, okay, how do I fix this? Let's see here. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you'll see this is what it's currently giving me as my plan. I'm going to come in here. I'll come straight over here, make a little curve around, and back down in. That would work fine. Okay, that would work just fine for my aircraft. Now we went ahead and inserted it. You'll see. What's this loop-de-loop thing going on here? If I go step, 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 Chrome, Copra, I'm on Copra now, Lawn, then to Miami, right? So go back up and see it's in this crazy little loop-de-loop. So I don't like how it's doing this insanity coming in. So let's say all of this is screwed up, and this is why I wanted to show you this, because there's a way to do this. All this is screwed up, and you're like, dadgummit, this doesn't make any sense at all. I want a better approach. I want a better flight plan. And you're like, how am I supposed to start over? I can't just go and clear everything out. That won't work very well. How do you fix it? Well, go to your flight plan. Go to your initial page. And you'll see your from and to. You're going to clear that out. I know that sounds crazy, but you're basically going to, you can type in your departure from, return. You'll see it cleared everything out, so you're going to have to type everything back in. Oops, I totally just hit the wrong button there. My bad. And I'm going to go ahead and type everything in. That we've already done, so if you're confused, like, why is he doing this again? Maybe you jumped ahead, what have you. No, it's because I am doing all this as an example that you don't have to do it through the arrival departures. You can manually input the waypoints here. Go to the second page, make sure Senator grabs wait requests, make sure that's good. Go back, go to our flight plan, and look, it is starting all over again. Who would have thought that would happen, right? So now we're going to go ahead and do a couple things. We're gonna do the departure out of Tampa, and we're going to transition there. We're going to input that. We're going to clear the manual. We're going to clear the flight plan discontinuity. We're going to insert that into our plan. And you'll see here, if you want to check it as you're going, you can do that. That this part of the flight is just fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we know from trying to put it in other ways that the computer just doesn't do it just right. Something's not right about the way it calculates everything. So we want to make sure that it doesn't screw it up. Well, there is a way to do it, okay? And it can be kind of a pain because you have to put everything in manually, but there is a way, okay? So I'm pulling up something on my other screen right now, just so I can show you everything that I am going to be talking about here. All right, so if I bring up my left display here, you'll see this is the ILS lock runway 8 right, which is the run we want to land at. And you'll see the points, Cobra, Chrome, everything like that. All of these points that you're going to want to hit before you come in. And these are your final approach points that you have to hit, okay? You can kind of make stuff up as you want to before this, how you want to get down, all that kind of stuff. How you want to do that is totally up to you. These are important points that you're going to want to hit on your approach, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and show you. If I go into Miami arrival, I choose ILS 08 right. I go ahead and choose this CN9. You'll see there's no transitions available to me. You're thinking that's a little strange. Wasn't there one beforehand? Yes, and remember I told you that it all depends on how everything is calculated. So if I insert this into here, you'll notice that as I step through, it gives me that craziness that we saw before, right? So we're not going to actually use the built-in point. We're going to create our own. So we're going Charlie, Yankee, Yankee. We're going to input that. And if we went ahead and went down, you'll notice there's Charlie, Yankee, Yankee, right? So we wanted to hit Charlie, Yankee, Yankee, and we're supposed to be coming in to runway 08 right. So we're going to head and enter our first waypoint along the line, which is Chrome, okay? Chrome basically is going to give us our point coming into, you're going to have your deceleration limitations, all that kind of stuff on your way in. Let me zoom in here so you can see it better. You'll see, okay, Chrome. Now what do we do? Well, we see that we already have the ILS 08 right points locked into our system here. And if we went ahead and cleared our flight plan discontinuity, you'll see we're coming straight in to runway 08 right, unlike before. Now what's this line right here? So if we go up, sorry, down, not up. This is basically, this is your holding point. So your holding point is also given by your flight plan. See? Out here, this will be your holding point. If, for example, you missed your approach or what have you, they send you to holding, this would be your holding. You honestly don't have to worry about much about this because you're not really worried that much about people telling you to go on hold. Unless you're in VATSIM, then you have to worry about it. Now, I know all this may be like confusing, your mind's blowing up and you're going, what in the world is going on? Again, I'm just showing you the two methods that you can do this. You can do it automatically, and sometimes it gets wonky, or you can manually put this information in to ensure that your flight plan is not crazy and makes some type of logical sense. So all of this seems pretty legit and pretty, normal. I don't see any issues with any of these points. Everything makes logical sense as we're coming in, so I'm going to insert it into my temporary. And now you'll see the colors have changed. You got the green, you got the blue. The blue is your holding pattern, green is your main flight plan. As you can tell, we go all the way back to Tampa. So that looks pretty good. I think that will do just fine for now. So we've hit our arrival. We've hit our arrival airports, our runways, we've got our stars. We've done the temporary plan, we've inserted it, we've got our main plan set up and ready to go. But we're not done yet with the MCDU. I know, right? This seems like it's going to take forever. What we have to do now is we have to do our performance pages. We're going to start with our takeoff performance, and luckily, this is nice and easy. You can do it automatically VR V2. Now you'll notice this one difference. V1 says not allowed. Not allowed. Why can't you put it in there? Because you have to do it manually. Okay, V1 you have to do manually, and there's calculations that go into it, but it's usually about 2 knots below your VR. Okay, sometimes it can be 3, sometimes it can be 4, but in most cases it's going to be 2. So you can just pretty much rule of thumb 132, so 2 below your VR, it's going to get your V1. You're good to go there. Takeoff shift, that's if, for example, part of your runway is closed off. Let's say the last 1,000 feet are being worked on or something like that, and you're not allowed to use that. You can actually put the amount of takeoff shift in meters set there, but we're not going to do that. There's no reason to do that in most cases because there's no construction being done. So in X-Plane 11 there's no construction, so just ignore that pretty much. Flaps, and this is your trim. You're going to set your flaps and trim, and the way you're going to do that is you're going to type in your flaps. Now Airbus is different than Boeing. Boeing is done in percentages, or sorry, degrees. So you have 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, I think there's a 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 35, 40, right? So, or 30, then 40. Airbus is different. You have 1, 2, 3, and full. Okay, so most takeoffs are done with 2 degrees of flaps. I'm sorry, 2 steps of flaps, not degrees. So you see 2 here. Then we're going to do a slash. The slash is separating your flaps from your trim. Now, to calculate your trim, so I should show you guys that because that's important. If you go back to your original init page, go to init B, you'll see here 24.8. That's your flaps right there, okay? So 24.8, you can round it up. It's going to be about 5 degree, 0.5 on your trim. Now you're thinking, how do you get 24.8 to 0.5? If you look down, I'm sorry, let me click off here. Click that away. If you look down here onto your wheel, let me get closer. You'll see CG 25, 30, 20, right? This is center of gravity, okay? And this is 0 and 1. This is your basically your percentages or degrees, however you want to call it, of your trim. And this is your center of gravity. So ours is a 2, or just below, so 248. So this is probably going to be about 0.7 degrees or percentages of trim. Does that make sense? It says 248, you go across, about 0.7. So I'm going to bring up back to my performance. Flaps were set at 2, and our takeoff trim is going to be up. You have to put up or down. Up, that's why it has up here. Up 0.7. Enter that. It's going to say, hey, check takeoff data. You can just clear that. Flex 2 degrees. What is that? What does that even mean? This is basically preventing your engines from overexerting themselves on takeoff, not full. What does it actually take to actually get into the air? Most cases, this varies between 40 to 50. I'm just going to put 40 in here. You can put 40. You can do some research on it, on the whole flex thing and what that all means. I'm not going to cover that here just because that's a lot of stuff that's unnecessary. You can leave this as is, or you can change it to 1,000 feet above your airport elevation. You can pretty much leave it as is and it'll be fine. This is doing with basically your engine, all with your engine performance and when things are supposed to happen. You can leave it as is. There's no real reason to get into it unless you really want to get into the nitty-gritty. And again, you can do that. Plenty of resources out there for you in regards to that. Now that we've completed that, that is pretty much going to finish our MCDU at this point. We're going to go back to our flight plan. We'll close that out. We have some other stuff. We're going to clear all that to do with the aircraft itself in the cockpit. So first off, we're going to go ahead and go overhead panel, and we're going to do a fire test, an engine and APU fire test. So we're going to start with the engine, and you're going to find a little test button, which is right here. You're going to hit it. You're going to hear that beeping. If you quickly go down, you'll see a master warning, which is what you want. Do APU. Master warning, what you want. And then engine 2. Master warning, that's what you want. So your fire systems are correct in regards to their tests. Next, you're going to check your oxygen pressure. Oxygen pressure is down here. Oops, there. That's better. If you click here, you'll see oxygen 1700 psi. We're looking for over 850. So that's perfectly fine. We got plenty of psi in regards to the oxygen flow. We're going to do an ECAM status. You go down to your ECAM control panel, which is this right here, and you hit the STS, which is your status button, and we're getting a normal, which is what you want. You want normal. Then we'll select hydraulics. Make sure we're green. We're green on all three. Looking for levels here. Don't worry about the yellow up here because it's not on. We got green all here, so we're good to go there. Next, we're going to select our batteries. If we go down to our electrics here, we're looking at bat 1 and bat 2. And the way we're going to check all this, since we're on external power, you're going to go up, you're going to turn each battery off one at a time. Bat 1, so notice it goes off. What we're looking for is to return the levels to the appropriate voltages. That works just fine. Turn off bat 2, turn it back on, and return to levels. Good. That looks fine to me. Okay, we're looking at making sure it goes over 25 volts again. And the whole reason you want your batteries to work properly, because what if you lose your engines mid-flight? Your APU is not on, you have to turn your batteries on to ignite your APU, and uh-oh, your batteries don't work either. Well, then you're kind of screwed. So you want to make sure your batteries work. Alright, we're going to make sure our radio control panel is set to on. That's down here. It is set to on. Radio frequency is set. So radio frequencies are in regards to your ATIS, or your tower, or what have you. I'm not going to worry about setting any at this point, but just know this is when you would set all of your radio frequencies. They're going to go ahead and turn on your seatbelt to auto, and your no smoking sign to on. Your emergency exit lights, this button right here, you're going to turn them to armed. This is the halfway, not all the way on, just halfway. Then you're going to turn your nav and logo lights on. This is nav and logo. Turn all the way up to 2. That's going to turn them all on as bright as they are. You're going to go ahead and do your transponder and your squawk. So go ahead and go down here to our squawk transponder points. We're going to clear all this. And we're going to put 1001 just because I can. Now we're going to make sure it's on standby, which it is currently on standby. So everything here, I'm sorry, it's on standby here. This is your TCAS. It's on standby. So we're good now. Alright, now we're pretty much ready to start our engines. So we're going to go up. Before engine starts, we're going to turn the fuel pumps on. Fuel pumps are now on. I'm going to go down and grab this, and you'll see why in a second. Now we're going to turn on our APU master switch. This is your APU right here. So we're going to turn APU master switch on. I'm going to switch over to APU, and I'm waiting for a thing to pop up here saying flap open. Basically, this is actually opening a flap in the rear of your aircraft to allow airflow into the APU, which is basically a miniature jet engine. And we're going to start our APU. And you'll see the EGT at the end is spoiling up. This is your temperature. This is your actual rotations of the what do you call it? Turbine. That's what I'm trying to say. Your turbine. Waiting for our APU generator to come fully on. We got all greens in APU, and APU is now available. That's what we wanted, so we're going to close that out. Now our APU is currently powering the aircraft. We can go ahead and turn off our external power. And we can go ahead and remove the ground power unit. Turn that off. Next, we're going to go ahead and make sure flight director is on. It is on. Make sure our anti-ice is currently off. They are currently off. And it's pretty much anti-ice is pretty much auto, by the way. A lot of stuff in the Airbus is automatic, okay? Just understand that. Probe window heat should be on auto. It is automatically on auto. And the reason you know these are off, because if you turn it, see it says on. I know it's fault, whatever, just, you're fine. So it goes away. So if you turn it on, it actually will show you on. Each button's different, it represents itself. Anyway. All right, so now that those are set off, probe heat is auto. Autopilot initial altitude. So we're going to set our initial altitude. I'm going to switch it by clicking a little bit to the left here of the button to 1,000. And we can just scroll up here. My initial is going to be 27 because I'm not flying with VATSIM or anything like that. Switch back to 100. You can put whatever altitude you think your initial would be. But for me, I am always going to put 27,000. All right. Altimeter set 29.92. This is where you would set your altimeter to whatever you need it to be. Mine, I know, is going to be 29.92 because I'm in perfect weather. We're going to do a pushback request. So go to plugins. For me, better pushback, great mod. If you don't have that, you're going to have to do it the default pushback if that's available. But I use better pushback always. It's better. Okay, guys, it's just way better. I already have a pre-planned point where I want to be pushed back to.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
All right, so we'll go ahead and call them.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
All right, tow's driving up. But this time I'm going to flip to arc mode. And the pushback's going to begin here. While it's setting up, I'm going to make sure my throttle is in idle. Engine mode selectors right now is on normal. That's fine. Since APU is on, and you'll see that if I can show you, you have since it's air engine plus 1 plus 2 bleed low temp throughout the levels advance if unsuccessful avoid icing conditions. So basically it's just saying, hey, by the way, your airflow is low. That's a problem. And if we go up here and click APU bleed, just give it a second. Let the APU PSI spool up here. Bleed's coming on.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
And APU bleed has to be on before you start your engines, by the way. Alright, bleed's good. So when we start our engines, we'll be fine. And I've lost frame rates for some reason. So I apologize if something crazy just happened. My frame rate's dropped for some unknown reason. Yeah, if I'm looking down for some reason, my frame rate's dropped. That's fine. We'll wait for this. I think it probably has something to do with the better pushback.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Alright, release parking brake.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Alright, I may start engines. So the process to start engines, you're going to select the engine mode selector from normal to ignition/start. Okay. You're going to turn on master switch 2, then master switch 1. I'm going to do it down here. I'm hoping it doesn't have frame rate issues, but if it does, just understand that's the process you're going to go through. Down here, and we're going to switch to ignition and start. We're going to flip engine 2 off then on, off then on, and that's because I noticed something that if you just flip it to on, it doesn't start up, and I'm not exactly sure 100% why. But you'll notice that as engines are starting to spool up and everything like that, we're looking at N2 spooling up. Now, unlike the Boeing, the Airbus, you don't have to worry about doing any type of, initiating fuel to the engines. There's no idle cutoff or anything like that. It's automatic, so once you hit the start, it just starts everything by itself. We're waiting for it to spool up all the way. That'll give us an available signal. Alright, available signal. That is basically a signal saying, hey, you can start the other engine. And we're going to go and start up engine 1. And as engine 1 spools up, wait for it to also come on. And available. Once it comes on and available, come on. There it is. APU bleed comes off. Master switch for APU comes off as well. So APU is no longer running. All of our power is being supplied
complete.
by
Go
the
ahead
engines.
and set the parking brake.
Alright, it's saying set parking brake, so we will do just that.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, as it's doing that, we're going to go ahead and do something else. We're going to go ahead and turn on our beacon light. We're going to go ahead and drop our flaps to 2. You can see it moving right there. Alright. Now that our flaps are down, we're going to arm our spoilers, ground spoilers. So pull that up, that arms them. We're going to prep for taxi now, so we're going to go ahead and turn on our taxi light, our nose lights to taxi.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have fun up there.
Alright, fantastic. Now we're going to pull this up because I'm going to need it for my flight control test. Hit flight control. You'll notice I can go left, right. I'll check my rudder and check my elevator as well. Everything appears to be normal and fine. I'll go ahead and set my trim for takeoff now. Right about... Sorry, I can't see it. There it is. Right about... We're looking for a 0.7 up. That's what we're looking for. Alright, hang signal should be on the right now. Can't really see them. Or on the left. Alright. So now that we got that, we're going to go ahead and remove this. We're going to release our parking brake. Go ahead and add a little bit of throttle in here to start our taxi. The Airbus is throttle heavy, by the way, guys. The engines very much overpower the aircraft, so be careful with that. Don't over throttle, because you can easily do that. Alright, we're going to do a quick brake test. They appear to be working just fine. Alright, we're going to go ahead and set our auto brakes to max. That's in case we have to do a, basically like an emergency abort of the takeoff. It'll help us brake. That's why you activate ground spoilers as well, in case you have to do that emergency brake. We're going to go ahead and select our takeoff ECAM configuration test, and to do that you're going to go down to your ECAM, click TD config, and you'll notice this is TD config is normal, so we're configured right now for takeoff, except for a couple of minor things like our lights and stuff like that and our TCAS. But in general, on the ECAM we are ready to rumble. So we're just taxiing right now to 01 left. As we're taxiing,
approaching 10.
As we're taxiing to 01 left, we're going to go ahead and turn on terrain on navigational display. This is going to give us our terrain radar. It's not exactly 100% accurate at this moment. Once we get in the area, it'll be a little bit better. And we're going to go ahead and turn on our TCAS system as well. Switch that to TARA. Nose lights, strobe lights, and landing lights are all going to come on in holding position. So once we get close, we'll go ahead and activate those as well. Alright, we're close to holding position, so strobes are going to come on. And we're going to turn on our landings to takeoff, and I'm sorry, our nose to takeoff, and our landing lights are going to come on as well. And that pretty much sets us up for takeoff now. Now, the next couple things are going to happen pretty fast, so pay attention. It's a little complicated in regards to your auto throttle. Just know that your throttle, so this right here, actually controls your auto throttle and what it sets to. I'm using a throttle, not quadrant, as much as kind of throttle
approaching
quadrant.
0, 1, left.
External throttle control. So you're not going to actually see me manipulate the throttle in game, but understand that it is being changed. So as we approach the runway, we go ahead and give us some power.
On runway 0, 1, left.
No, pay attention right here. You're going to see some changes. Let me see if I can get it a little bigger. It's not letting me do it. Oh well. Pay attention right there. You're going to notice some changes here as I increase power. See main throttle, and you get a caution saying it's not set. What we're looking for is manual flex plus 40. So that means the aircraft is actually controlling the throttle right now on takeoff. Alright, rotate speed. So we're going to pull off. Gently just hold it up. This thing will just nose up like crazy if you're not careful. Alright, so we're in flex right now. We got positive rates. That means the gears are going to come up. Nice and easy here. Just following it up. Flaps can go ahead and come up. It's just going to be slats. Flaps and slats coming all the way up. And we're going to adjust our actual throttle to where it says THR CLB. That's throttle climb. And we're going to activate our autopilot, which means I'm no longer controlling the aircraft. The aircraft is controlling everything from the throttle to the actual flight direction. And that's important to note, guys. The THR CLB, you actually have to manipulate the throttle control right here. You actually have to push them up and down. See where it is right now? It says CL, that's climb, so it's climbing right now. If I move this up, it would do to the flex MCT to just go around. Like, you have to manipulate this to actually change what the throttles are going to do. So that's important to know. If that confuses you, welcome to the party. That's just the way they created the system, okay? Flaps are already up, but one thing we haven't done yet, we haven't disabled our spoilers. Just disable them. Make sure flaps up, spoilers are disarmed. So as we're climbing here, we're going to focus on a couple things. We're going to make sure our gear are up. They are completely up, so all three lights are off. That's what we want. We're looking for 10,000 and 18,000 feet. Okay, 10,000 feet, so we switch over, we turn off our landing lights. 18,000 feet is our transition level, so we're switching from our regular altimeter to our standard, which happens to be 29.92, and you do that at 18,000 feet because the pressure below you changes all the time. It would be ridiculous for you to change the altimeter every 1 minute or whatever. So you're just going to switch to the standard and you'll be just fine. Everyone over 18,000 feet in the US uses standard. I think in the European Union, in Europe, they use 6,000 AGL. I could be wrong with that, but I think it is 6,000. Alright, as we're flying here, we're going to go ahead and go up, and we're going to turn on some anti-ice And that's because I know as we get up in altitude, when we're hitting that negative 38 degrees, that can cause some problems for your wings and your engines. And that pretty much is going to take you all the way up to your top of ascent, which is marked on your navigational display. If I can see it here. By this little blue, up and then level. That tells you, hey, that's your top of your ascent. So it's coming in about 65 nautical miles or so, more like probably about 70 nautical miles out, and we'll be at our top of climb. So this is a nice, easy, gradual climb up to top of ascent. So we're at 10,000 feet, so I need to go ahead and switch off my landing lights. That's coming off. And we'll go ahead and turn off our nose lights as well. It comes off. And again, this is all being controlled by the aircraft itself. The computer is calculating all of the speeds you need to fly, the altitude you need to fly, everything like that. It's all being calculated in the aircraft itself. We're approaching 18,000 feet now, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to standard right when it hits 18,000. Now I'm going to show you guys something else as well. I mentioned I was showing you ILS because it's slightly different, and that's because you have to check something as you get closer. And I'm going to go ahead and check it now just to ensure that we are going to be using the correct information for the ILS, because sometimes the navigation data changes and the charts are changed as well. Switch over to standard now. Come on, switch. There we go. So we're now over to standard. So what I wanted to show you, bring up our MCDU here, and if we bring up our RAD and /nav, that's our radio and navigation, you're going to notice that you're going to see some VOR frequencies, everything like that. So this is your actual frequencies that you're going to be using. Now this is VOR, so Charlie Yankee Yankee VOR frequency is 108.60. That's already set for you, going to or from. If you're using VOR navigation, we're not doing that today. If you're confused, you're like, what is VOR navigation? I actually covered that in a video a month and a half ago or so. You can check that out, and I'll explain VOR there. But we're not covering that today. That's not what we're going to do. So what are we actually looking at? We're looking at our ILS. You notice it says IMFA 110.30. That's saying our ILS for this runway is going to be 110.30 according to the navigation data that's inside the computer. Is that correct? Well, let's look at our navigational chart. So we've already pulled up our runway 08 right, as I previously showed you, and you're thinking, okay, where on earth do I find the ILS frequency? It's called the log/DME 110.30. You can also look at localizer here, 110.30. This is the correct frequency for the ILS for runway 8 right. Okay, so this would be the correct frequency then that it shows us here in the MCDU. Is the same one that shows on the chart, so we can confirm, okay, we're good to go there. 110.30 is good to go. Fabulous. And we're just still flying here, and we're going to come up to 270, and once we hit the top of climb, I'll come back and explain a couple more things as we get closer. Alright, we're getting close to our top of climb now. Let's show you that. Bring this up and see top of climb as I mentioned. We're getting close to it. And I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple things once you get about 30 nautical miles out from your top of descent. We're going to go ahead and go through these things, and that's mainly because you kind of have to do it a little bit before and make sure everything's set properly. You want to make sure you do it far enough in advance where you're not getting stuff, you're not lagging behind. But since we are pretty much right when you hit our top of the ascent, we're pretty much 30 nautical miles out from our descent. It's important to go ahead and do this. So once you hit your top of, once you're about 30 nautical miles from your top of descent, you're going to want to grab your meter. So that's your, basically your weather for your arrival airport. Now there's a couple ways you could do it. Luckily, with the fabulous Flight Factor A320 Ultimate, you can actually bring it up right here. If you go to browser and type in google.com and type in the arrival airport, so Mike India Alpha, Meta is actually right there. What do you know? Here it is right here. And it actually brings up your meter right here if you need it. Now this is actually different than what it is in the sim, because in the sim it is actually set to just standard, just plain great calm weather. So we're actually not going to use this meter, but that's how you would actually retrieve it. And then you're going to enter the information into the MCDU. So we're going to go back to service here. We go down to the MCDU. Now it says enter destination data. That's important. So if you go to your performance, next phase, descent, next phase, this is your APPR, this is what it's looking for. QNH, this is your barometer, this is your pressure, so you're going to go whatever your pressure is. Mine's going to be 299 or 2, input it. Temperature, that's going to be 12 degrees Celsius, this is on Celsius by the way. Wind is calm, so you're going to remember formatting, 0/0. Transit 18, everything else is fine, don't worry about these, no reason to touch them. For most flights, okay, just leave them as is. So that's pretty much what you have to do there, and that's going to help your aircraft calculate your descent. Now, since we're getting close to the top of descent, let's zoom out here, you'll see there's the top of descent, about 20 miles out. I'm going to go ahead and take this knob, switch over to 1,000, and I'm going to bring it down to 3,000. We're going to bring it down to 3,000 because that's when I'm going to grab the ILS. That's where Chrome is going to grab on. Okay, so whatever your ILS initial point is, I'm going to show you the left display here. See how it says 3,000, right? So it's actually going to grab it right here, 3,000. That would be a good point to do your approach. Okay, go back to center because it's important. This next step is crucial. Okay, crucial. I say it again, it is crucial. If you do not do this, you will screw yourself up. Okay. For some reason, I don't know why, but I want you to go ahead and set your auto brake. So we're going to set it to low. Set our auto brake to low. Go down to our performance page. We've already set that information. That's when you do it now. You go ahead and set your destination information right here. It's already done. You enter the QNH, the temp, the winds, spoilers. So you're going to use the spoilers on your descent as required. Now to actually descend with Autopilot, you're going to select this button. You're going to click it with your left mouse button. You're going to click it once. Just going to click it once. Okay. You're going to wait until this is about 2.5 miles out. Okay. The reason you want to wait until it's about 5 to 2.5 is because it'll make a smoother transition from cruise down to descending. It won't just drop off like off the face of the earth. Okay. You're giving the computer its ability to automatically descend, but you have to hit this button. If you don't, it will not descend. Again, if you do not hit this button, it will not descend. So you're going to press your altitude in, one click. Notice throttle idle. Operation descending. It is doing an idle descent into the area, saving you money on your fuel, as well as making it nice, gradual, and gentle for your passengers. So it's going to take us in, nice and gentle. Notice the vertical speed is dropping, and you're just going to slowly descend. And it is completely being run by the computer right now. If you want, you can bring this up so you can see everything that's going on. Go away. If you can't see it from your normal cockpit, every now and then you'll get a little message that'll say drag required. Basically it's saying, hey, I'm not able to slow down to the correct speed without human input, basically. So make sure you're paying attention to that. And that's why on the checklist you'll see that says spoilers as required, because at some points you may have to use them. The next big thing is about 10,000 feet. 10,000 feet is when you're going to turn your lights. Well, one thing, once you hit 18,000 feet, so transition altitude, you're going to switch back over to your barometer, basically, and that's going to be your arrival airport's pressure. So in this simulation it's 29.92, but it could be anything. For example, right now in Miami, the real life barometer is 30.01. So make sure you're checking the meter, which is, it's going to have that pressure for you. Make sure you're setting that correct pressure, and again, that's going to transition at 18,000 feet. So I'll wait till 18,000 feet and I'll be right back with you. Alright, we're approaching 18,000 feet right now. We're going to switch over from standard in just a second. One thing I didn't mention when we were initially setting up our pressure was the alternate, oh gosh, and the word just came out. Basically, your alternate altitude, your attitude indicator, artificial horizon, all of that. I'm going to switch over. And you notice I got a blinking thing there saying, hey, you need to switch over. So I switched over. You have to set it here too. You have to set your barometric pressure in this one as well. And I know it's teeny. Let's see if I can get it to get larger. Oh, I had it. There we go. You just switch it by changing this knob right here up and down, and it'll switch. See? So just make sure you set that too. So yeah, we passed through 18,000 feet. Next thing will be at 10,000 feet. And that will be several different things, so I will see you guys at 10,000 feet. Okay, we're about to hit 10,000 feet. You'll notice that the aircraft is slowing down. As we hit deceleration point, it's going to slow the aircraft down to the allowed speed below 10,000 feet. In the United States, that is 250 knots below 10,000 feet. So that's why it is slowing down. Now that we're getting close to 10,000 feet, there's going to be something we got to do. What's that? We got to turn the landing lights on. Why do I turn the landing lights on? That's because that is federal regulation. And it also, basically, the whole point is to make sure people see you. You know, especially at night, they want to make sure people can see you flying, and that's part of the process, is turning on your landing lights, as they are pretty much the brightest light on your aircraft. So we're going to go ahead and turn our landing lights on. At the same time, we're going to turn our anti-ice off. No reason to have it on anymore. 10,000 feet, temperature has probably climbed already above freezing, so it should be good. However, if for some reason that was not the case, and let's say temperatures to ground level were, you know, 0 degrees Celsius, you know, obviously up here it's still going to be below freezing, so you would actually keep it on until your approach section. But you have to turn it off once you get towards approach, because you can run into issues with systems if you have it on. But so now we're going to turn it off, and we're going to turn our dome light from dim to off. This is your dome light, by the way. You can different selections of how bright you want it. I'm going to turn it off, get this cool little look going on. And that's mainly because I'm going to start looking outside the aircraft, looking for runway lights, looking for airport lights, anything that's bright, any traffic I might see, anything like that. And the less visible light I have inside my cockpit, the better. It allows me to see out better. As I get close to my this right here, so this deceleration and drop, right, I'm going to initiate the approach phase of the arrival. And you do that by hitting this activate a PPR phase. You hit it, it's going to say, are you sure? You're going to hit it again, and you say, yes, I am 100% sure I want to start the approach phase. You're going to hit that, and then you're going to start your approach phase. Oh, there's the lights for the Miami. And it's going to go, okay, we're going to start our approach phase. Now, the reason that's important is because it's going to pay attention to the speed and altitude restrictions a lot more carefully. And if I hit this button right here, you'll see the altitude restrictions. See that? Like come on and off. So you have to be above 3,000 feet for Copra. So as I get closer here, just letting it closer, I'm going to reduce arc to 10. Alright, so this is Miami right here. This is where we're shooting for. I believe the runway is going to be right there that we're heading for as well. And I'm sure, you know, looking at it, you're like, this is going to be very disorienting. I mean, you can't really see much. All you see is blackness, like a star and another star and some lights and stuff. Like, yes, it can be very disorienting. That's why you have your alternate higher horizon electronic, your alternate horizon physical. So it's using pressure and all the standard instruments that you have, like in your Cessnas and stuff, and your navigation stuff. All of this is helping you fly. If you didn't have it, you'd be like, a little lost in the sauce. And that's why I used to have people way back in the olden times having a lot of issues in regards to navigation. You have people, it was deadly. Being a pilot was extremely dangerous, and that was because you didn't have all the technology and stuff that we have today. So as we approach this approach phase, we're going to go ahead and activate our APPR phase, and we're going to confirm that. That's going to automatically give us our approach section. You're going to notice the aircraft is functioning a little different now. It's starting to, like, you know, bring up a little bit. The speed's dropping. All of this is part of the process for it to come in. And what it's shooting for is this green ball speed. See this little green ball? During the approach, this is the approach speed it's shooting for. It's clean. Excuse me. It's clean speed, the ability to fly in clean configuration. And we're coming in here, and we're waiting. We're waiting and waiting. We're going to turn our landing system on now, and we're looking for these balls to, or diamonds, not balls, to appear, and these are going to be our localizers. We're going to go ahead and turn on our wing lights, runway turn-off lights, and turn on our nose to take off. So we're start lighting our aircraft up as much as possible. We're going to go ahead and arm our speed brake, and do that again as you pull up. Arm it. Hopefully we won't have to use it. You can always disarm and use it again if you need to. We should be making a left turn here in just a second. We're starting to see our ILS indicators, so that means we're getting onto our localizer. That's what we want to see. Alright, beginning our turn now onto our quote-unquote final. And we can, once we make this final turn, we'll go ahead and start lowering our flaps. We'll activate our approach. Activating our approach, so it's looking for our ILS frequency. It's localized them, so it's locked on. Now we're waiting for that glide slope point. We'll go ahead and lower flaps or slats to 1. Notice this had speed, and now I hit glide slopes. Now we're hitting the glide slope. So now we're coming in. We'll drop flaps. We're going to use our speed brakes here just a second here Slow ourselves down. And we're starting to come in on our final now. We are 100% locked on our ILS right now. Once we hit 7 nautical miles out, we'll drop our landing gear. Slowly incrementing those flaps down. We are 7 nautical miles out from the end of the runway, so we're landing gear coming down. We're going to wait for those 3 greens. Three greens, landing gear down. And this is going to be our little landing indicator. Now we're going to set our space armed here, and we are set for landing. And we're flying in. If I was going to do an auto land, this would be a good time to hit the secondary autopilot, but I'm not going to. I'm going in manual, so I'm waiting. I'm waiting till about 750, 500 feet, and they'll take over. Technically, it's 1,000 feet, give or take. Just use your brain, guys. Don't just let the aircraft, don't let standards overrule your common sense. Does that sound like a good thing? Don't let standards overrule your common sense. All right. Coming in nice and easy here. Beautiful little approach here in Miami here at night. 1,000 feet to go. TA only is activated. Go ahead and disable autopilot. Shut that off.
Approaching 08 right.
Disable auto throttle.
400.
Manually flying the auto throttle now. So 100% manual now.
300.
A little off center here. Let's see if I can get back on. That looks better.
200.
Hold on, folks. Coming in.
100.
100 feet to go.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard.
Retarding, flaring.
5.
And we've kissed down. Bring those down gently. Reverser's coming out. A little off center on that landing. Reverser's coming off. And flaps are coming in. Spoilers coming in. Releasing the auto brake. And we're going to come and gently come off the runway here. Flight director landing system's coming off. Floors down, flaps down, auto brake is off. Landing, we need to turn our landing lights off. Slower down here, slower down here. Landing lights coming off. Just coming to taxi, runway's coming off. Wings coming off. Alright. As for taxiing here, we need to go ahead and activate our APU. Go ahead and turn this to standby. And AP start on. Strobe lights can come off as well. All right, we're gonna get parked up here, and I know that last thing, a lot of stuff happened really fast. If you have the checklist, you'll see I jumped around just a little bit on the after landing checklist, but as long as you get everything done, that's what the important thing is. So we're looking right now for our gate. That's it right there. So we'll go ahead and make our turn here. Looking for the A320 line. And it's going to be about right there. Okay, now we're here. We're going to go ahead and go down. Parking brake on. Engine 2 master is going to come off. Engine 1 master is going to come off. Fuel pumps coming off. AP bleed needs to be on. Actually, no, it needs to be off. It's not necessary. Seatbelt signs coming off. Smoking stays on. Beacon. Lights come off. Wings off already. Alright, so we're going to go down to our ground power unit. Turn that on. Oh, takeoff. Nose cone comes off. And external power is going to come on. AP master's coming off. Alright. This would be where you would be at if you need to fly another flight right after this. Like unload your passengers, load next up, fly out. This would be where you would leave it. However, since we're going to do it cold and dark, we're going to go ahead and turn everything off. So we're going to go down to TCAS. That should be on standby. It already is. Squawk and standby. External power goes off. Ground power unit goes away. External lights should be all off. They are all off. Batteries should be off as well. Batteries are off. And that, my friends, is how to fly the Airbus A320 Flight Factor Ultimate. Fantastic aircraft. Anyway, I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. I know it may be confusing a couple times. I did my best to cover everything that you kind of need to know to fly this aircraft. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, any questions, anything like that, leave it in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them and to address any concerns. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video and all my other videos I offer. And I hope you fly with me next time. So thanks for watching.